Do you guys hear me?
Yes.
My headset, I apologize. My headset just broke as I was trying to join the meeting. I had to run out and get my Gorilla Tape, which is holding it together. That's my only mic. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's like sitting pretty weird, but hopefully this will work. Looks like we have a quorum. Okay, let's please start the meeting. Will you please take roll, Director DeAndrea?
Chair Green?
Present.
Vice Chair Borman?
Here.
Member Brinker?
Here.
Member Brown?
Here.
Member Hubka? Member Kawanabe?
Here.
And Member Labe?
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our May 10th meeting?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Vice Chair Borman. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Kanji.
Thanks, Member Kawanabe. Will you please take the vote on that, Director DeAndrea?
Yep. Chair Green?
Yes.
Vice Chair Borman?
Yes.
Member Brinker? Member Brinker?
She's muted.
Yes. Sorry, I thought you heard me. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Member Brown?
Yes.
Member Hubka? Member Kawanabe?
Yes.
And Member Labe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Now is the part of our meeting where we take recognition of public comment. I see we have one phone number attendee. If you're a citizen who, and then they just disappeared on me, or did you move them over? Huh, maybe they just hung up. I don't know. Is anyone a member of the public who wishes to speak? Okay, hearing none and not seeing anyone, we'll move past the recognition of public comment. And Director DeAndrea, was there something specific to deal with on the previous motions? Nothing's changed there, right?
No, I just updated it. We did have one motion at the May 10th meeting, so I added that.
Oh, okay. All right. And I saw that in the minutes and that makes sense. Okay, thank you. So I don't think we have to do anything there. Let's move on to new business. And Director DeAndrea, will you please pick up where we left off in going through the RFP?
Sure thing. I'll share my screen.
Thank you.
So if you recall, we had gotten through, let me make this a little bit bigger. We had gotten through the large item pickup 2 weeks ago. So let me scroll up here a little bit. So we're going to look at 2 vouchers per household per year. I had the motion in the minutes, so apologize.
Yeah, and I reviewed that and it looked right.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
That captured what you were thinking there. Okay, good.
Yes. Yeah, it's exactly what we voted for.
So we'll move on to section. This is, oops. This is the section where we talk about providing services for city facilities. So this is just a list. So the city would pay for their own, but we thought we'd lump it in with this contract so that we get a price, and then it's the same hauler basically is servicing the city facilities as the rest of the residential. So these, what's shown here in the table is the dumpsters that are currently provided at this facility, and then how often they should be serviced. So in that first line there at the Civic Center, we have currently 2 8 cubic yard dumpsters, and they should be emptied, we're saying 1 time per week. And similarly, then we have recycling and garbage.
You don't have to read it. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, you don't have to read it all to us.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll try and be more succinct.
Oh, no, I appreciate your your level of detail, but I also don't want to like make you have to go into too much detail. To me, what stood out on this was just making sure that this wasn't included in the cost that we're evaluating against for citizens.
That's correct. So this would be, again, paid for by the city. It would not go into the rates at all. This is just, again, an attempt to not have multiple service providers within the city.
Right. And collectively bargain and get a better deal for city overall.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I do see we have a couple of hands up, Chair Green.
Thank you. Apologize for not recognizing them yet. I'm working on getting better at that all. Member Brinker.
Is this the same RFP that was in the PDF of the agenda for today?
It should be, yes.
And then is this the same RFP as last time, or did the one that we got for today reflect any changes from last time?
I've kept the same one. So
okay.
As you saw 2 weeks ago.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm making just updates as we go, and then I'll have one final version at the end here with all of our changes.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Member Brinker, for verifying that. That was what I thought it was as well. Just, it's good to hear that. Member Kawanabe?
I think it's great that we're including the city services as well, but I would like to see how much benefit financially the servicers are going to get from this, just so that it's top of mind for them as well as for us. Not saying that it has to be, just a suggestion to put it out there.
So are you suggesting that it be broken out differently, or what do you want to see?
Yep. So as a line item, a separate line item to see that what the city is paying for this as well, in addition to what the individual folks are paying. I think at the end, what I'd like to see is how much benefit the servicers are going to get, right? Because if they're not currently servicing the city services, then they get an additional benefit for being the single hauler. So I don't know how that looks, but I would like to call it out to see, and maybe it doesn't need. I just want to open that up for discussion. If other
That's a good
folks
idea.
would think that helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Member Quanabe. Did you have an idea on the structure for that, Member Brinker, or were you raising your hand for something else?
A related thing, I was hoping that we could also find if there are any cost savings to the city, which would ultimately be cost savings to the taxpayers.
Sure. Is that different than what Member Quanabe was asking for?
I think it's related. It is a bit different just because it would be the benefit from one end to the servicer, so the additional profit revenue that they're getting, but on the other end, the savings that the city is getting.
Okay. Do either of you have an idea for a motion for that? Because I think that's good. We should have this. And let me ask Director DeAndrea, to ensure that this portion is separated from what is counted for what citizens pay for, is that structurally in here to make sure that all of this is listed separately in the response to the proposal? Or I mean, to the proposal response to the RFP?
Yes, let me call up the cost proposal so you can see where that's broken out.
Thank you.
So on the base bid uniform container, as you see at the bottom here, line 29, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
So this is for city waste and recycling collection. So it'd be all of those 8 listed sites per month. So there'd be a cost for that, again, for the
all in one instead of per site?
Yeah, so the 5, 7, or 10-year contract. So we could break it out per site, and that's both in the base bid and the pay-as-you-throw option. So those costs would be separated at least, so we'd know how much the city would be responsible for. Is that getting at your concern, Member Kawanabe?
Maybe I don't understand the line item. Is that line 39 all city services lumped together?
Yes,
together,
that's what you just said. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I think in this format, though, I guess then it's getting mixed in with the price or the bid for. Maybe maybe I don't understand how the how the end result is. So the services would then show a price for each of these columns in E, F, and G, and included in that is the city. So I guess my concern is we've got the city payments mixed in with the residents payments, all for the base price. Is that correct? Am I reading that correctly?
Well, we break this out as a separate cost. So let's say we get an invoice. We'd want them to invoice us separately for the city facilities. I could certainly put this on a separate tab so it doesn't appear like when we add up these columns that is included in the base price. I could certainly do that.
Well, and we could kill two birds with one stone if you separate that out and you make it line items per location, because then assuming we can get what those locations are currently paying, we can see what benefits to the city or not there would be, like Member Brinker and Member Kawanabay asked for. Is there any reason we couldn't do that?
Nope. Mm-mm.
Does anyone?
I don't think we get the bill broken out that way right now, but that doesn't mean we can't, request it that way and get the prices for that.
Vice Chair Borman?
Yeah, I think separating it on a different tab is, I think, a good idea, because that way also we can compare what is the city currently paying for their trash and recycling services versus what hopefully with a single hauler it is, and maybe it becomes like not an automatic thing that we have to select the same hauler for all of it. It'd be great, but
okay,
yeah, to separate it out a little bit.
Director DeAndrea, do you have access to what's currently being paid for these things?
I can find that out. I don't have those bills aren't paid through Public Works right now, but we can get that.
All right. Well, okay. And then I think a hand went up and then down, and then Member Brown.
I was just wondering, does the city pay for recycling at this time?
Yes, we do.
Okay, because I was just wondering, because all the the bins that they have in front of City Hall, I mean, where do they put their recycling? Do you know what I mean? Like the containers in front of, where the library is and down below. I don't see where, I mean, do they take that garbage and then take it apart and put it in recycling?
No, so we back in the loading dock of, let's say, the Civic Center, we have a separate bins, 2 bins for trash and 1 bin for recycling. And most of our recycling comes from the inside the building itself. So at people's desk or near, like break rooms or lunch rooms, where you can put pop cans or paper, a lot of paper, obviously. And so we recycle it that way. And our custodial staff will pick that up in a separate container and then dump it in the recycling bin.
So currently the city does not have recycling for public facing parts of the city, only for internal parts of the city?
That's correct. Yeah.
So
would that change as part of this?
Yeah, that's, as we talked about last meeting, that is part of the strategic plan, is to encourage more recycling. So part of that is putting out the bins in public places to allow for that. And then our custodial staff would pick that up and dispose of it or put it in the recycling bin, similar to if you're in an office, but we have not gone there yet.
Okay. I guess just to formalize this, I'll make a motion. I'd like the city waste and recycling collection portion to be separated in the cost, or this Excel file, whatever it's called, to a separate tab, and then broken out per site, and request that to the greatest accuracy you can, you fill in what those are currently paying so that we can see what savings or not ends up in the proposals. And the part that goes to the RFP does not have to include those current prices. Is there a second or any discussion on changing that?
I'll second that. Thanks for stating it.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a quick comment. Why do we care about it per site?
Well, as brought up by member Kawanabe, it gives us a chance to see if it's actually a savings or not.
I just figured the whole total for the city would be the whole total for the city though, right? Because it's currently the entire city is serviced by a single provider. Is that correct?
Yes, I don't believe it's broken down by facility, but I'd have to check on that.
I don't know. Seems like busy work. I might be missing something. But I just figured, as long as we're not, as long as we're comparing apples to apples in terms of the whole city being, or the city facilities being addressed, I don't know why it matters that we do site by site.
Member Kawanabe?
No, I'm aligned with that as well. So I would just say it aligned with the current way of billing so that we can just do a comparison. I don't know if it's just one big bill or not.
I'll accept that friendly amendment. So instead of the per site breakout, everything else to provide the information so that, we and citizens can see the comparison of what's current and then what the proposals have, but not broken out by site. Ideally showing any difference in service levels as well, because I'm assuming that this request may be expanding what is currently needed because of the plan to add more recycling. Is that accurate, or do we know that?
I think we have the bins, the recycling bins at each facility. It's how much they get filled. So I think this is adequate. I think we need to do a better job internally of promoting recycling by employees. And then again, making public bins available. So if we were to, let's say, exceed those recycling bins, then we would have to add one for an additional cost.
Okay, thank you.
But Deputy Director, I think we're good.
Deputy Director Lundquist, do you have something to add?
Actually, Maria just got it, is we do track the amount of recycling that we have at each of the facilities, just to kind of get a benchmark of what's being collected there, and that each building's doing its part to the overall goal of that sustainability goal Maria was talking about earlier. And we do have some benchmark numbers from 2021 or 2020 that we compare as we're collecting for 2021. But Maria is absolutely correct. We need to do a better job in encouraging it, and then also in a more public facing manner.
Okay, thank you. Director DeAndrea, are you clear on the motion with the friendly amendment?
Yes.
Can you please take a roll on that? Or vote?
Yep. Chair Green?
Yes.
Vice Chair Borman?
Yes.
Member Brinker?
Yes.
Member Brown?
Yes.
Member Hubka?
Abstain.
There she is. Okay. Or did you say abstain, Member Hubka?
Member
Yeah.
Hubka, would you like me to
No.
state what it is, so you know?
No, I don't want to rehash it. I'm just abstaining. It sounds like it's going to pass anyway.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
go ahead.
Thank you.
Member
Cool.
Kawanabe?
Yes.
And Member Labe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
Thank you, Director DeAndrea. Please continue.
So I'm going to jump back to the Word document. Okay, compost collection. So, oops. So the primary change here was that we are allowing, this is an optional service, and then basically that they can, haulers can propose compost collection, or they don't have to. So it's really at their discretion as to whether they want to submit a proposal for compost.
Director DeAndrea, I noticed one typo on this. Under disposal, it says all recyclable materials instead of compostable.
Oh, okay, Good catch.
Anyone else have anything on this? I think we're pretty clear on this. We've had that in as all the way through. Please move on.
So similarly, yard waste collection during the green parts of the year, so May 1st through November 30th. And again, this would be an optional service, and the haulers would have the option of submitting a price for this or not.
Anyone want to go over anything on that? Okay, thank you. Please continue. Oh, did you have something, Ms. Member Brown?
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry. Got in there
No
a little late. So are we talking about it's an optional service that the city may or may not choose to implement?
Yes. Can I try to cover that real quick, Director DeAndrea?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, Member Brown, there's yard waste the way it currently is, as people are used to, where you put out the extra bags or bundles next to your trash. You and I think of that as yard waste, but that is where the material, the bundled branches and bags of yard waste go to the landfill. And we've already addressed that. This is separate. This is a green yard waste collection option that we're giving them the ability to additionally propose, where this form of yard waste would be, when it's picked up, it's not put into the landfill. It goes to a more environmentally friendly green processing place. And so this would be an optional thing they could include a price for, and then citizens would be able to optionally participate in this at an additional price as well. Is that accurate, Director DeAndrea?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that for me.
No problem.
So again, neighborhood yard waste events. So this is an optional service. And so we are going to get a price, at least, for the contractor to set up at a park or somewhere else where or the service center perhaps, where you could bring your bags of extra yard waste material. And that would be 2 times a year, probably typically the spring and the fall. And we could see that as one of our optional menu items for dealing with yard waste.
Now, I thought we effectively voted against any service that requires citizens to have to take anything anywhere.
And I know that was the discussion with large item pickup. I guess that's the question is, do you still want to leave this in here and leave this as an option? But that would be the intent, is that you'd have to bring your yard waste to the site.
Member Laib?
I don't think it hurts to just leave it on there to get a price. I don't know. What does everyone else think? I agree that was kind of the discussion of, that seems like a hassle that we maybe wouldn't want to do, but I'm wondering if we could include it as just seeing what the haulers could offer.
Vice Chair Borman?
I agree with Member Laib, just because I do think we should get a price on this. You know, I have a feeling that the, optional one where they pick it up on site at our places is going to end up being astronomically in cost, kind of like we talked about with the compost previously with the other RFP. And I'm suspecting these yard waste events might actually be an affordable alternative that, could allow for people to bring it to a site, at least in limited amounts and stuff like that. So if they wanted to get rid of branches and things like that in an environmentally friendly manner, it could be at least more feasible but yeah, that's all.
Okay, Member Brinker.
I agree with Member Laban, Member Borman.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, then let's leave it as is. Oh, Member Brown.
I'm sorry, I'm raising my hand so late. I'm having problems a little bit with my computer, but would that not, and that's okay, I'm for leaving it in, but would that not raise the price that the contractor would give us? I mean, I'm in for leaving it in, but
Director DeAndrea, is this a, I forget if on this one, is this, if it's optional, is it included in base, or it would be an additional cost to citizens?
It is not included in the base. So this would be part of our menu of options. So let's say, to Vice Chair Borman's point, oh, it's very costly to provide, pickup, or it's the previous one that we just talked about is yard waste at the home. So this might be a reasonable option that the committee would want to consider putting as part of the package that we ultimately bring forward. But it is not part of the base price at this point.
Right. Okay. But Member Brown said she thought it made sense to have it, and there is optional anyway. So that's unanimous. So you can move on, please. Thank you.
So this next section is a lot of sort of the logistics in terms of what we expect the proposal format to be, what the pieces that go into that. So we do limit it to a certain number of pages. And then you can see here the various exhibits that are required to be submitted with that. There is a cover letter, the approach, that sort of thing, and then the price proposal. Any questions on that part? We did add in here, this was a section that was added, if you can see my area that's highlighted. So we did add in that they needed to talk about the types of vehicles that they're going to be using to facilitate or carry out the contract, and what are their plans for replacement and upgrades. That was a direction from the committee. Okay. Then we do ask for relevant experience. So where are they providing service currently in other similar cities or jurisdictions? Then we would follow up and actually contact those people at those other agencies to determine what level of service that they're providing. And we have some just follow up there. And then also identifying who the key personnel are that are going to carry out the contract. And then again, we speak to the references here. We may also, so presentation is an important part. I was going to say, so we may also, sometimes, I think we talked about this a little bit last time, is that if there are exceptions of any kind, let's say that there's something within their proposal that they wish to keep confidential, or if there's exceptions to the contract or anything else, that they're required to disclose that as part of this section. Okay, insurance. And then just a note here that the city does reserve the right to reject any or all proposals. And of course, there'd be a process to go through for doing that. Any questions on that? Okay. So for the selection process, what we would do is basically we would go through, and the scoring sheet, which was one of the attachments, I can call that up here. We had and we'll see it in here in a little bit, is the points system. And basically there'll be, everybody will get the proposals. You'll be asked to rate those or give ratings to each of those. We'll see who comes up with the highest score, basically. And then we would move forward into negotiations with that particular hauler to talk about any of the specifics. Again, going back to that exceptions, if there was anything there that needed to be discussed or hammered out. And then there were some items identified that if we were to move forward with a contract, then they would need to submit their list of vehicles, inspection and licensing for the vehicles, obviously their insurance, and then that route plan, which was a condition of before they could move forward into actually servicing within the city. Okay, here we go. Here's the selection criteria and here's the points. So again, when we get the proposals back, then we'll be asked to go through those and rate them on these factors. So qualifications, quality of equipment and vehicles, price or cost, which is given a high amount here, personnel, so these would be the folks who are actually working on the contract. So typically that service manager who's going to service our contract and be our point person, their work plan, any alternative approaches of how they might come about this. And then this is a change where we're adding in an additional 10 points if they are going to use alternative fuel vehicles. I'll stop there. I think you might have some questions.
Yeah, Member Brinker. You're muted.
I'm hoping we could discuss the points allocated here.
Yeah, I think we should. What exactly is qualifications?
I think that goes back to the references, so that they're currently servicing their other clients adequately. So we would probably go through those, talk to the references, and then write up a summary of the conversations with each of them that would help inform then that section.
Is there any quantification for service level?
No, it'd be just a qualitative discussion with that reference person.
Member Kawanabe?
Yeah, I was hoping that we could actually align the point system to the goals that are listed out on page 10. I know we had discussed that earlier, but I think it's more timely to discuss it here and see if we actually want to put it to a motion. But it seems arbitrary the way it's listed now. It's very general versus we've got very succinct goals on page 10 that would, at least from my point, be beneficial to align the point system.
That's a good point. Do you have a suggestion as to changes to make it more towards that, Member Kawanabe?
I mean, I think we could go through that. I'd want to leave this up for discussion first and then maybe make a more
Yeah, I'm just saying
motion.
Like even a point to start the discussion since you brought it up.
Yeah,
did you?
Sure. So we've got like the rate pay, right? That's definitely one of the primary things that we're looking for. That's listed in the point system, that's listed on the program goals. But if we were to look at increasing the amount of types of materials being recycled, we're specifically calling that out to see if that is listed in their special suggestions in their alternatives ways of collecting the waste. Reducing the number of collection vehicles, I think that would be a more general saving. So I think it would be anything that was specific. So are there point systems for bulk items? Are there point systems for the issues that Chair Green would like, right? So that we're specifically looking at not specifically yard waste, but the program that we had agreed on as a whole. Financial savings, customer service, you called that out yourself. Like, how can we rate their customer service? Because it differed, right, with each one of those response times that they were stating.
Yeah. Now that the customer service isn't it in there? No, not specifically, is it? we've got price cost. What's personnel?
That would be the people that they assign to this contract to work with us.
How are you judging that and applying 10 points to it?
Just based on the text that they would provide within the document, the proposal.
Okay. Member Brown?
Yeah, I don't understand how we can rate personnel, but I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to when you were talking about to get reviews on, if I understood that correctly, on the trash hauler. I mean, who's going to submit these reviews if they're good, bad? I mean, does the trash hauler submit these reviews?
Well, they would give us 3 agencies or companies, let's say probably other cities that they currently serve. So let's say that's 3 other cities with a contact person. And so then Englewood staff would contact those references and ask them about, how are they providing service? Are they doing a good job for you? We probably have a similar set of questions for each of the references to follow up with. Okay. And then we'd summarize those for the people who are doing the ratings.
Okay. And Director Deandra, could you mind going back to the points?
Yep.
All I've got in front
Sure.
of me is the program
Yep.
goals.
Yep.
Okay, so qualifications, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, that would be those references where we would contact people, the other companies they serve. Mm-hmm.
And then I guess I'm just still not understanding about personnel, 10 points. Why would that come into it?
Yeah, just that we'd want an experienced person who's done this type of works in the past and not somebody who's, necessarily new to that role. So we'd be looking for experience and probably just, experience in dealing with similar issues and similar contracts. So that would be the basis for that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Member Brinker?
When I was going through these numbers, I was thinking we should start with the price cost. So that's probably the most important, and boost that up to, for instance, 50 points, and then go through the others one by one after that, and to throw out some ideas. I wonder if qualifications and personnel could be combined.
I was thinking the same thing.
Okay, and still be, for instance, these are just straw men, but that could be still 10 points total instead of 10 points each.
That's a good idea.
Another that could be combined would be the quality of equipment and vehicles and the alternative approaches. So those could be, for instance, 10 points total instead of what's now 15 total. Proposed work plan and approach. I think that might include customer service, which was one of the things Member Quannaby pointed out that's important to us. Maybe that's 20, and alternative approaches. That's not necessary, and they don't even need to submit any alternative approaches. It's just optional if they want to. We do want to encourage creative thinking, but I would think that might be 5 points. So those are just some straw men to start with, so that we could have the ability to get the price as at least half the points.
I like your suggestions. And I was thinking the same thing on qualifications and personnel. That seems pretty tightly coupled. And that being 20 points seems kind of high for that. Member Kwanabe?
I love this idea. And I think if we just put the sub bullets under these, just so that we know that we're hitting all of these points, right? Like customer service, wherever that may lie, if that is under proposed work plan or approach, would just be a sub bullet, just so that we know exactly, specifically what we're looking at in that point system.
Good idea. And
Yeah,
personally, I would like to see service level somehow directly related in here. Now we know a lot of service levels covered by what we've included as, base service requirements like both alley and street, but I think it should be taken into account level of service when we're looking at one that is providing similar yard waste levels of service to someone who's not even attempting to. Like, I think that should be factored in, because there are thousands of customers in the city who this current, you know, if the 10 bag thing is what we end up with, I mean, that's a significant reduction in service levels. Member Brown?
Yeah, I agree with what you just said, Chair Green, about level of service. And I also agree with that the price should be 50 points.
Member Hubka?
Yeah, it's that weird measurable service level thing, because it's going to come back to price. You know,
It's hard to hear you. Are you able to get closer to your mic or something?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you.
Well,
That's better.
Yeah, I guess that service level, how to gauge it, just seems a little wonky, because we're asking for everybody to provide this service level. Who's going to be the cheapest and do it all? So see, it really comes down to price and what we want to pay at the end of the day. So, I mean, you know what I'm trying to get at here? It's a little difficult to say, what if they all offer that? They will all offer this service. They're going to give us a price.
Yeah,
now,
well, if they all... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just trying to say, are you trying to get down to customer service level? Like how?
Well, I mean, I think customer service, we're talking about being likely under the proposed work plan approach. What I was talking about is like, if what you said ended up being true, if they all offered all optional services, including both options on yard waste, then that would be a wash points wise. But if one offered the equivalent yard waste, you know, the unlimited at a reasonable amount, that should be weighed better than ones that don't offer that at all, is what I'm getting at, because that would be a difference in service level to citizens in a measurable way. Member Kawanabe?
Well, wouldn't that be, well, I'm not done.
Oh, go ahead. You can go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Wouldn't that fall under proposed work plan and approach? You know, what we could do is, rather than rewrite this evaluation criteria, we could take the criteria here and then put our specific where we want things to align and assign those points that way. There already are a majority of points given to price. It's really, price cost is 30 points. So I would be willing, I mean, we could raise that. I think that would make sense for sure.
Well, and what you're saying might make sense. Like, proposed work plan approach could be like service level could be a part of that. I mean, that is the second largest amount of points right now anyway. Member Kawanabe?
Yeah. One thing that's missing for me is the primary objective of alley service, both out of the page 10 program goals and the page 29 evaluation criteria. I don't know where that would fall into the plan, but would like to see that included as one of our primary goals.
Well, that one is also required in the base for anyone who responds to the RFP. So that one's not really a difference between responses, since they all are required to include that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. That's true. You're 100% correct. I stand corrected.
But I do think that one of the subpoints on proposed work plan approach, in addition to customer service, should be service levels, because for the things that are optional, those can, or that are, you know, proposed in a, you know, a beneficial way that actually could be included and would affect overall service levels for citizens, you know, that is measurable and could be a part of that greater, you know, second amount of points. Member Brinker?
I agree with both of those things. Alley service, if they don't do it, I think we can't even accept their bid at all because that's so important to so many residents. And I think the level of service could be included in how we rank the proposed work plan along with customer service.
Member Hubka?
Well, whatever we give more points to, we got to take points away to equal 100. So what do we propose to lessen as of lesser importance to us?
Well, if I caught it all based on, or Member Brinker, I was going to kind of say what I got from what you said, but okay. So if we bumped price cost up to 50, so then we have 50 left. If we combined qualifications and personnel into a total of 10, then we're at 60. If we keep proposed work plan approach to include customer service and service levels at 25, so then we're at 85. Member Brinker suggested killing alternative approaches because it didn't really make much sense. So we have 15 left. And then if we keep it as is, it would be still 5 for the quality of equipment and vehicles and 10 for alternative vehicle use of alternative vehicles, unless we're going to combine those and address something that maybe got left out. Possibly Member Quanabay or Member Brinker, did I miss something?
Yeah, I think we could combine quality of equipment and vehicles with the alternative fuel vehicles.
That makes sense. 15 seems high for that. Maybe bump that down to 10. And are we missing anything as a top level one, Member Quanabay, for the goals?
Nope, because everything else was just included under sub bullets under those primary line items.
If we have 5 points to spare, I think we could include alternative approaches for 5 points.
We could do that, or I would suggest add it to the proposed work plan approach, since that's such a huge part, because that includes service levels and customer service.
I like that idea.
Works for me.
Vice Chair Borman?
I like that idea as well, where we kind of added into the proposed work plan approach, but I think we should almost specify like adherence to proposal or RFP guidelines, because we had in that initial RFP, I feel like sometimes they sort of blew us off.
Ignored it.
You know, we said that this was a required thing, and then they just blew us off. That felt like kind of a dick sort of thing to do. Sorry for my profanity, but it was, I forget which one it was. I feel like it was Waste Management.
They all did it to some degree, both of them.
Yeah. And then, specify in there, adherence to giving us the opportunity to look at price for green yard waste, for composting, for large item pickup, all the stuff that we really wanted. And if they don't satisfy at least all of it, then I think we should dock them for at least part of it.
I would suggest we make that a sub item of the proposed work plan approach, since that's the next biggest amount of points and it fits with that.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So let's see. Are you done then, Vice Chair Borman?
Yes, sorry.
No problem. Member Brinker?
I wanted to summarize what I heard so far under proposed work plan and approach. Would include level of service, customer service, adherence to the RFP, and alternative approaches.
And what is alternative approaches? Can you remind me?
That would be if they just had some great idea that, they're in the business and they would propose something that we maybe not have thought about.
And you think that, does everyone like 10 points for that? Is that really, I think we all care more about them covering what we want than throwing.
That's what I was thinking is under proposed work plan and approaches. Someone, I think it was Member Quanabay, said have some bullets. Sorry, I don't remember who said.
Oh, so you're saying alternative approaches would fall under there as a sub?
Yes. And then that gives flexibility for if someone has really good level of service but doesn't have any alternative approaches, or we could still rate them high for that, et cetera. and weigh those amongst ourselves, but those all would fall under the general category of proposed work plan and approaches.
Okay. Does anyone have a full recollection of the breakdown at this point? Can you read it back to us, Director DeAndrea? Or do you have notes that you could show?
Yep. I haven't typed it in, sorry, so we'll just be verbal. But price and cost is 50 points. Qualifications and personnel, 10 points. Equipment and vehicles, along with alternative fuel vehicles, is 10 points. And work plan at 30 points. And then we'd have sub-bullets under the work plan related to customer service, levels of service, adherence to the RFP, and alternate approaches.
And that adds up to the 100?
Yes.
Okay.
Like that.
So I'll make them, unless someone else wants to. I'll make a motion that we adjust the evaluation criteria to the breakdown that Director DeAndrea just specified.
Second.
Was that Member Brinker?
Yes.
Okay. Will you please take a vote on that, Director DeAndrea?
Yes. Chair Green?
Yes.
Vice Chair Borman?
Yes.
Member Brinker?
Yes.
Member Brown?
Yes.
Member Hubka?
Yes.
Member Kawanabe?
Yes.
And Member Labe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
Thank you. Please continue. Oh, I did have a question on this, which is kind of before we went through this whole breakdown, but I was wondering, like, what if the points add up one way, but cost and service levels of a different provider are better? I think that the way we just broke this out makes that less likely. So it's probably a moot point at this point, but that was what I was seeing when I first looked at it. And yeah, so that I'll just drop that. That was before we went through this. So we're good.
All right, so now we're getting into the attachments. So attachment A is our standard city contract. That was a separate attachment. I didn't include it in this document, but we can go through that if it's necessary. Attachment B is definitions. So if we reference, for example, the word appliances, what does that mean if it shows up within the RFP? So we say that as applicable here, that appliances that contain Freon are not as it says, they're excluded from this definition as they are considered hazardous waste. So portable or window air conditioners are the same way. When they contain Freon, they can't be considered one of the items that you could throw away either in the trash or as one of the large item pickup items because of that Freon. So that just goes through the definitions.
I wanted to point something out on the large item.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems a little odd to me that some items are included that are, like a couch, for instance, could be way more than 40 pounds, but then carpet is limited to 40 pounds. It just it seems like potentially some, unnecessary but reasonable logic arguments. So, if you're getting rid of carpet, chances are it's probably more than 40 pounds.
Mm-hmm. I think the intent would be and you're right. So like a couch, there could even be multiple pieces, if it's like a sectional, and even then it probably takes two people just because it's so bulky. And it probably does weigh more than 40 pounds. So,
well, and a bathtub, because it could be the old type of bathtub and those things weigh a ton.
It takes 6 people to lift one of those old steel, bathtubs. So we could certainly expand on this. I think even more so, it might be in, I was thinking about this after our conversation last week, is to maybe define this list a little bit better. So like here, when we're talking about mattresses and box spring, so each item, so a mattress is one item. not a mattress and a box spring. So when I say here per each item, it would be one mattress, one box spring. Similarly, one sofa, and then.
So if it's a sectional, is it all the parts?
Well, that's a good question. I think it would
to me,
be
like mattress, if a couch includes all the parts, then why wouldn't a mattress include the box spring? I mean, it's just, I could see people being annoyed by that because it's not necessarily logical.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that it will help not only citizens, but it will help the waste haulers as well, so that we try and define this a little bit better, so that their understanding is the same as ours. So even if we do keep mattresses and box springs separate, is to make sure that that's very clear. Or we combine it as one mattress and one box spring. But like for a king, you also have those two, you can sometimes have those two smaller or twin size box springs with the one king size mattress. So is that one item collectively, or is that 3 items?
Well, and there's even mattresses where a king mattress is two separate
pieces,
ones too.
Yeah.
I mean, I would suggest, oh, go ahead, Vice Chair Borman, you got something?
I was just going to say that I feel like there's got to be, one of these other cities out there that already has a list kind of like that, that's already gone through this. Did you look for that, Director DeAndrea, or was this like just kind of from the cuff type of thing?
This was based on Lakewood's. So I used theirs, and it's very similar. So when they say each item, but I think their text in their RFP document was a little bit more specific than this list. So I think, again, what we could do here is mattress, or box spring, if we wanted to go that route. I mean, as opposed to mattress and box spring.
You've also got beds listed, which I would say if I had a mattress and a box spring and you're only going to take one, I'd say, well, no, that's my bed.
Mm-hmm. I consider the bed the frame, like the headboard and the footboard and the sides and everything.
Okay. Did you have something else, Vice Chair Borman, or are your hands still up?
I do agree that we need to be as specific as possible, because I feel like if it's not included in this list, the haulers are going to deny us to be taken. And as long as it's not, excessively large or excessively toxic, obviously, whatever, we should almost have it in there. I don't know, like, it's hard to outline every single thing that's possible. Or
it's not too hard with like mattress. I mean, you could say, one complete bed set of mattress and box spring, because then it covers all the configurations of mattresses and box springs that make up one bed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Couches could be including all portions of a sectional, complete. And I would think on chairs, if someone's trying to get rid of a set of chairs, why not let that be chairs, one chair or a set of chairs? Because all those are going to add up to less than what a bathtub could be. Does anyone object to any of those definitions? Are there other things that people would suggest to clarify some of these things? I mean, I would say that it would make more sense to bump the 40 pounds on all 3 of the 40-pound things to 100, because that's closer to what many of these other items could weigh, and even less than. Member Brown?
Yeah, I actually don't think 40 pounds is that much. I mean, when you're taking into consideration some of these appliances, I mean, I know my refrigerator is more than 40 pounds. Try to move it. And, and when you have a sectional couch, I mean, do we need to say, oh, well, you need to take the pillows too, or just the couch frame? I mean, I'm just thinking 40 pounds is not that much in weight at all.
Well, 40 pounds is only specified for 3 of the things: construction debris, swing set for some reason, which I doubt any swing set weighs only 40 pounds, and then carpet. And then everything else is not limited by a poundage. So, and I do think that those definitions should be updated to be, you know, complete. Like I suggested on couch. And I think your point about the pillows is good. It should be, you know, couch, complete, all sections and pillows. Member Brinker?
Well, could I just add one
more? Oh, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Member Brown.
On where it says required mattress or box spring, couldn't we put required mattress and box spring, or?
That's what I suggested.
Or some other kind of verbiage where it comes that a whole, you know, a bedroom set. And I don't mean dressers or anything. I just mean like the whole bed set.
Yeah, I agree. That's how I proposed language for
one item.
Agree.
Okay. Thank
Member
you.
Brinker?
I'm flexible on this. It's not something I'm going to die my sword over, but I'm a little nervous when we start raising the poundage on every single thing and the amount, just because of how it might affect the price that we get. And I'm going to be pretty price sensitive as we start getting our bids in, obviously, like everyone.
Yeah, my push on this is to make it more logical, because, and to be more clear, and Director DeAndrea agreed from that perspective too, that the clarity helps for both citizens and haulers, rather than leaving such ambiguity.
Yeah, clarity definitely helps, but I don't know that we need to use the poundage of a bathtub as the benchmark for everything. And I don't know about sectionals, but hopefully there won't be too many of those. But that, I don't think that means we need to use that as the benchmark for weight for everything either necessarily. It does make more logical sense, but it'll probably also make the cost a lot higher.
Yeah, just to counterpoint, you know, there could be instances too where you just replace your mattress and not the box spring or your bed set. And so then you're paying for the entire price for that item to assume that the disposal was for everything, and really you're just getting rid of the mattress. So
yeah,
that could be the other extreme of that situation.
Right. I agree. That's all I want to say. Leave it as or.
Vice Chair Borman?
I just keep getting stuck on the bathtubs in terms of like a 200-pound thing. I don't know if they're really that heavy, but maybe we should limit the weight of something like that, but not necessarily get stuck on the 40 pounds. You know, like everything has to be under 100 pounds, period. Because if it's a 200-pound bathtub, you know, they should probably be hiring I don't know, whatever, the waste guys that drive around and take metals and stuff like that, because they could probably get $300 from the metal recycling place.
I mean, I'd argue if we're going to kill the value of, I mean, if this is based on what Lakewood's doing and we're incurring the cost of including large item pickup for the benefit of citizens, and then we, you know, limit it to the point where several of the things would just create a rejection or argument that, oh no, we'll only take one part of your couch, we'll only take one part of your bed, oh, your bathtub's too heavy. You know, then we're kind of like, why are we even including this if we're going to just have a whole bunch of things that are exclusatory, you know, and that wouldn't even be useful for. Vice Chair Borman?
Yeah, I wasn't like saying that we would, you know, I do think it should be mattress and box spring, because I do think that is a mattress, you know, generically altogether. I just was, you know, the huge bathtub, I'm trying to think of, like, I know they'll probably have to send somebody special out, because I think that was part of our plan, but, you know, essentially like a 200-pound bathtub, I don't know how many people would be required to lift that, 3, 4 maybe. I don't know. I have no idea, to be quite honest. Yeah, I'm not sure how to improve the verbiage all around, to be quite honest.
Well, I mean, that's multiple of us who think that a mattress should include whatever combination that makes up a single bed of mattress and box spring. And then, you know, from the beginning, the assumption was couches included the complete couch, including the sectional. Vice Chair Borman, is your hand up still, or is that again?
That was still, but I think, yeah, we just put couches / couch sets or something like that, you know, although that
or just complete. I mean,
complete couch, yeah.
And mattress and, you know, complete bed, mattress, and box spring. You know, if someone's only replacing one or the other, they don't, you know, fine, it's covered. Member Brown?
I was just going to ask, how would people know, say, if they're bringing something out there, like let's say a refrigerator, how would they know if it weighs 40 pounds or more? Or carpet, or, you know, whatever is included in those 40 pounds. I mean, do you have to weigh them? I'm just asking, how would you know if it weighed 40 pounds or more or less?
Yeah, I mean, not everyone's going to have an easy way to do that. Member Hubka?
Well, it says per each 4-foot bundle, each weighing more than 25 pounds. People who install and do their own carpet generally know it's going to be more than 25 pounds. But just quickly, getting back to the mattress or box spring, the price, if we do both, if it's mattress and box spring, I can imagine the price is going to be $250. And so if it's just one mattress, the price is probably going to be half that. Yeah. See, and what's been dumped around here in this block has been just the mattress part. So they don't go hand in hand. You know, a lot of people these days are buying those things that you blow up and they poof up when you take them out of the box and they just sleep on that. So I'd really like to just keep it down to mattress or box spring and a price per each item. We want to be, remember, economical as possible for people, not make them, of course, not weigh their items, but I would stress that needs to stay mattress or box spring for pricing.
Member Brinker?
That's how I'm leaning too.
Well, then let's do a motion on it. Because right now it's ambiguous, it's mattresses. So if one of you want to change that to be limited to one or the other.
Maybe we leave it generic and then that way we see if they'll pick it up for both of them.
It says price per each item, mattress and box spring, price per each item.
The RFP just says mattresses, and
I think we're getting caught up in the minutia. I really do.
I would argue that's what you're doing by trying to make it one or the other.
Well, I'm just trying to get us the cheapest price.
And I'm trying to get the best deal and reasonable, not exclusions for citizens.
This isn't making sense.
So, oh, sorry.
Member Brown?
We leave it vague and move on.
So Chair Green, can you make a motion about, I mean, are you also thinking that it should be box spring and mattress or a bed set? Because that's what I'm thinking.
I guess if you want to pay for your mattress, you're going to pay for the box spring anyway to have that removed. So if you just have a box spring, you're paying for the mattress to be removed as well. So hang on to your box spring until you got a mattress, and then you can get both instead of doing them separately.
Well,
So
also get a
we're going to
couple different
exclude,
items.
so we're going to make it a couch. Like I've got a couch that's 6 sections. If I want to get rid of that, no problem. But if I have a mattress and a box spring, we're going to make that 2 items. I mean, plenty of citizens are going to feel this way. I'm not alone.
Yeah, but they're going to pay for, if you put box spring and mattress, that's one price. That's like say $300. If you do or, then it's $150 at a time, not $300. See, it's you know, you can put or out there. If you want to dump both out, that's a price per each because it's like a unit.
Remember,
But
Hoka, do you understand that what I'm comparing it to? That if they're going to have to take all couches in complete, you know, that can be height of beds, that can be height of beds combined in a sectional like mine. We're talking about a huge amount of couch in that case, which why are we going to include all that and not the mattress and box spring? We're going to include any bathtub, but not.
Change the sectional definition. Change the sectional definition.
So you're wanting to just keep reducing service. Okay. Member Brinker?
We're not reducing service. We're trying to get the lowest price per pound we can. And it's not common for somebody to put their mattress and their box spring out together.
Well, it's not common to have large item bulk waste pickup, but it is common to have yard waste pickup every time you have trash. So we're not going by what's common. We're already far off of what's common. Member Brinker?
I'm with Member Hupka on this because we've replaced the mattress twice, but not the box spring in either case. And I think that that's becoming more and more common because the mattress gets more squished. The box spring is just there kind of stable. And then like Member Hupka was saying, some people don't even use a box spring. And then I also thought that we had it in there where you could do a couple different items on a large item pickup. So if you have a mattress and a box spring, they would take both. So I would go for the option of the lower cost here because we know that if we don't get a bid that beats your waste services contract, then all of this is dead. So I'm leaning more towards trying to be conservative on price where we can. And I don't think it's necessary to use the bathtub or the sectional as the benchmark. I think it's totally fine to say couch because most couches aren't sectional, some are. That'll all come out in the wash.
All right, so right now we have a little bit of ambiguity between what's written in the RFP and what's in the cost proposal. They're not the same because there's ambiguity in the RFP and then there's different things in the cost proposal. I would say the cost proposal should reflect what's in the RFP accurately so that we at least don't have ambiguity between the two. And so if it's mattresses, then put that in the cost proposal. And if we want to change what's in the RFP, then let's change that. I mean, I've heard arguments for ambiguity. I've heard arguments for reducing what these currently mean. I've heard arguments for increasing. There hasn't been a motion yet. But I do think that they should be in sync. And I would say that the RFP is what should drive that rather than the cost proposal. So the definitions should be from what's in the RFP. Vice Chair Borman.
I was erring on the side of being very specific, but maybe we should just leave it generic like it is, say mattresses, and we assume that people will probably mostly put out one, but occasionally it might put out both and hopefully they pick them up. I don't know.
I agree.
I don't see we have any other option because we can just keep going back and forth, and I don't think there's a way for us to outline every single thing, you know, and yeah.
All right, I've got a motion. I move that the definitions from the RFP go into the cost proposal with the ambiguity as stated in the RFP, so that there's not more specific in the cost proposal, and that they're in sync. Did you have something else, Vice Chair Borman?
No, sorry, just processing and thinking and rereading it again.
Is there a second for that?
Under chairs that came up before, it does say in the fill-in one, 4 chairs counts as a set. So in some cases, maybe we just go with whichever is more specific and make them match.
Well, that favors the mattress or box spring, unless we go by what we just saw her type in with and.
Yes.
Mattresses, I just heard you say earlier that you thought a set of chairs should count, and that is what's in the green fill out portion. So you would, if you did that with your motion, each chair would count separate. But if we went with what's in the green, 4 chairs would count. So maybe we need to just do a comparison, and maybe Maria can do that.
Well, chairs is plural, chairs.
But bathtubs is also, so that doesn't mean a set of bathtubs.
Yeah, and someone could argue that that's my chairs, my set of chairs. Okay, so then we have to like pick it apart and go into the extreme level of detail rather than leaving it ambiguous. So I guess we need to see both and pick through it if we're gonna go for one, some definitions from one and some from the other. I was trying to make it more simple, since we could leave it as we definitely don't need to make it specifically dining chairs. There's no reason to limit it to a type of chair.
Could we ask Director Andrea to just go through them and try to make them match how she sees fit? And then
we'll revisit in our next meeting.
Yeah, although on the other hand, I was hoping we would get through this and be able to release the RFP before the next meeting.
Well, then if we're going to do, I'm not okay with it just arbitrarily being changed and agreeing to it without knowing what it is. I'm not okay with that. So if we want to deal with it now and either keep it ambiguous based on what the definitions were in the RFP or some combination, et cetera, then let's work through that. Member Hubka?
Well, I am comfortable with having Maria go through it and see if she can figure out the best way to match them. Because I don't want to go over a set of chairs is ambiguous. That could be a set of office chairs, but we know they probably mean dining chairs. And we could also go into all electronics and the garage door motors. And again, every conceivable thing you could put into the waste, we could really draw this RFP out. So I would like to trust Maria's best judgment and have her go maybe one more time, just match the definition with what's on Lakewood's list, which seems to be worked for Lakewood pretty well. That's my motion, to not get caught up in. I would like to see this RFP go out after this meeting as well.
We're not under any time constraint, and I would like to not rush anything on behalf of citizens.
We aren't rushing anything.
If we're ignoring details,
no, we're not
deciding that we're going to force the RFP to be done tonight when we have 39 minutes left.
Don't forget that if we can always do it again, if you're really that caught up, if we don't like the responses. This is
then we would have wasted all of our time to put something out
I don't
that
think
isn't.
We've wasted any time. Does everybody else think we've wasted all this time? I think we've spent a lot of time on this, and I'm not in a hurry, but we are dragging this out, if I may say so.
All right. That's an opinion. We are not under a constraint time-wise, and doing this right and getting out the proposal that, or the request for proposal that best reflects what we're trying to achieve, which is primarily cost and service for citizens. If we're not done, we're not done. And I'm not okay with arbitrarily having what this ends up being as interpreted by a city staff member. Nothing against Director DeAndrea's capabilities or what she puts out, because obviously she does a great job, but not without our reflecting on it. If we want to continue.
Okay. Let's
wait, I have not called on you. I'm still speaking.
I'm sorry.
If we want to move forward on this with it being as it was written in the RFP and get the cost proposal in sync with that, as ambiguous as that was, because we know that that's where it came from Lakewood based on that, fine. If anything else, then I'm going to want to get into the details of it and specify it more specifically personally. Member Brown?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I believe that we should not be rushing through this at all. I mean, we're on 31 of 62 pages. There's like 31 more pages to go. So I'm not in any rush to get this signed, sealed, and delivered. I think there's too much to go through. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Member Hubka?
Then I'll just make a suggestion that we set this aside and have a separate meeting to go over all of these definitions and list them out. And we'll talk about the definition of each piece of this waste. I mean, this could go the rest of the night. We do need a list, and we need to be able to compare it. Go for it, you know, but let's do it in a more organized way.
Well, then the easy way to do that would be to have Director DeAndrea work on it, specify it out based on her understanding of what we want, and then we can discuss that in our next meeting. Member, your hand is still up, Member Hubka. Director DeAndrea, would that work?
Certainly. And maybe this is a good time to add, but I've been given feedback from the city manager that at least a couple of city council members do want this to come back. We are tentatively scheduled for June 14th. So that doesn't necessarily mean that every last aspect of this needs to be finalized. So I think what we're going to be going over with them is that the kind of the broad elements of the RFP language that we've talked about. So there is somewhat of a time constraint, is that council is getting interested in wanting to see this wrapped up so that they can move forward with a decision on the RFP.
Well, even if that's the 14th, we still have time for another meeting on our normal schedule a
Absolutely.
week before that.
Yep.
So let's do that. Will you please break this into what your understanding of what we want is, and we'll review that next time.
Sounds good. Yep.
Thank you. Please move on.
All right. All right.
Well, you did just skip past something that's kind of controversial, and
okay.
I mean, I would love this because you have residential solid waste defined as what I think it should be, including the tree limbs and, carpet, drywall, etc. But that doesn't really fit with everything that we've currently discussed, right? Because residential solid waste is what fits in the bin. Mm-hmm. According to what I hate to make that argument because I'm the biggest proponent of having standard levels of service included, which is including yard waste. And this obviously is based on that standard level of service that everyone's used to. But this does not fit with what, we've currently been limited to based on, the votes of other members of this committee.
So I noticed one thing here. We need to look at making these consistent. So here I have 35, we had 40 earlier. So I do need to clarify that. But I think the intent was to try and define what is residential solid waste, because sometimes people don't include. So as it says, there are small amounts of carpet, drywall, and tree limbs, but not necessarily. Sometimes they can completely exclude these types of items as residential solid waste.
So with this, we're saying that in the base price, we are including 4 bundles of branches in every trash pickup.
Not outside the container. So this would be stuff that would fit in the container, which is defined through the proposed or through the RFP. This just defines what is residential solid waste. So if
I don't see how you're going to fit 4-foot bundles in a bin, but okay.
Yeah, but that would be the intent, is that so we define in the proposal that, or excuse me, the RFP, that residential solid waste is contained within the container.
Does it even say that?
Not in this section as a definition, but it does within the proposal.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So this was a separate attachment for the city street map. I can pull that up if anybody's interested, as well as the city alley map. Does anybody want to see those? They were an attachment to the agenda, both last meeting and this meeting. All right, so vehicles. This just talks about, I did add this number 3 with the alternative fuel vehicles to talk more about that, but otherwise this just gets into some of the requirements around vehicles as well as driver qualifications. And ensuring that they have enough vehicles and equipment to service the contract at all times. Okay.
Member Brinker.
Can you go up just a tiny bit back to vehicles, page 35? Operating conditions, vehicles. Yeah, second sentence there. Vehicles shall not be allowed to stand in. I would like to add or idle in any street.
I thought standing by definition was idling.
It could be off or on, and I want to make sure they're not sitting there on. Maybe it's not necessary. Just something that caught my eye.
Yeah, it makes sense, but I think the definition of standing is a vehicle that's running and without moving. But I could be wrong. I remember thinking that was weird when I found that out.
So the difference might be is whether it's on or not, so if it's not turned on, is that stand versus idling, it's the vehicle is on.
I don't see any harm in specifying.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
But it should be idling.
Okay. Yep.
Idle shouldn't be allowed to stand in or idle in. Whatever.
Yeah.
I think it
be
is
parked.
idle.
Yeah, be parked while running.
Thanks.
I'm not sure if Director DeAndre.
Sorry. All right. So is that good? So not be allowed to be, okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
So, all right. Okay, and then we talk a little bit that there needs to be a supervisor identified. And then again, they're kind of a point person for the city. They're dealing with customer service issues as well as the haulers. And then just some items related to how the personnel out in the field, as well as those on, let's say, customer service people online, how they would conduct themselves. Okay. Member Brown, I see you have your hand up. Oh, did we lose Chair Green?
Looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Director DeAndre, when it says about personnel conduct, so I thought, and I'm maybe wrong, but I thought that the trash company are we going to call the trash company for complaints? Just say they missed a pickup, or do we call the city too? I mean, how is that going to work?
The intent would be is that you would call the company directly. But we know that we'll get a certain number of calls, but we would direct people to contact them directly.
You mean the city, to contact the city directly?
Excuse me, no, the waste hauler.
Okay, but aren't we hiring someone at the city to, right? Isn't the proposal that we're supposed to be hiring 2 full-time and 1 part-time person?
We are, but they're not necessarily dealing with the complaints. So okay. They're for billing. They will handle a certain number of calls, because typically your first call, unless you know that and we adequately communicate that, a lot of people will end up calling the city, and then we'll direct them to call the waste hauler. But that the intent of the additional staff is to manage the program in terms of billing, dealing with special cases. And then if we were to move forward, there was also a halftime for the code enforcement.
Okay.
It's not necessarily to answer, and follow up on every single complaint, because basically if you go to the waste hauler, then they can handle that more directly and efficiently.
Okay, I mean, I already know we've spoken about the amount of money for 2.5 workers. So I was just wondering if, since the trash hauler is going to get the complaints, I guess I'm still not understanding why we need that amount of people, but thank you for answering my question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not sure what happened to me. I'm on a direct fiber connection, and to me, it looked like Director DeAndrea was frozen, but then suddenly I got kicked out. So sorry. So I missed a minute or two there. I caught the end of your answering, Member Brown. I have some questions on page 36 as well.
Okay.
Some of this to me seems like are we going to require their phone answering people to wear a uniform? I mean, like some of this stuff feels like it's getting in between the contractor and their staff in ways that we don't really need to get in the way of.
Yeah, I think the like be clean and presentable, wear a uniform is really for the people out in the field.
Can we specify that?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Public facing person, I guess. And then what is the reason to put into this to block people from scavenging? Why wouldn't that be between the hauler and their staff, however they want to handle that?
I think there's actually, this may relate back to, I think there's a law related to this, that technically you own your trash until it's picked up by the hauler. So that is considered scavenging if somebody else were to come through your garbage, or if the waste hauler's staff were to go through the garbage. I guess we don't need to know about that necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, to me, one of
I
the
think
things
they'd have to manage that, yeah, if it is a law.
Right. I mean, I think that could be omitted because they're obviously going to have to follow whatever the law is and make their own rules for their employees.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I don't want to build into, unnecessarily build in is blocking citizens from being able to, have scavengers take stuff. I mean, I've moved tons of things that have been recycled or upcycled just by putting it at the end of my driveway and scavengers take it. I don't want to discourage scavenging.
Yeah, I can look into that a little bit more. I think, that's great. And I think we do want to encourage that. It might be in a situation where others don't necessarily want people to go through their garbage. That's why sometimes people put free, a little sign that says free or something, and then it's intended to take it, but it might not be an issue.
I mean, I would, yeah. So can't that whole thing be omitted and let them deal with it? Member Brinker?
It doesn't prohibit any individual citizen from scavenging. It's just their employees. But I don't care if you want to take it out. It's fine.
Yeah, it seems unnecessary for the city to get involved in.
Okay.
That's all I had on there.
Okay. And then we get into customer service. So we specify that in their proposal that they'll outline their customer service plan, how they intend to handle complaints. This also ties back to our levels of service. So they'll need to speak to that. Again, how they're taking customer calls and their timing for responding to and resolving issues. So at a minimum, they'll need to meet our standards. There may be situations where they feel that they can go above and beyond that.
Member Brinker? Member Brinker? Your hand's up. You're muted.
I was trying to find my mute button. When I was reading through the text under 2, 4, and 5, they cover a lot of the same ground. So I think for clarity, those 3 could be combined.
And I feel like, I mean, we did vote to require that the hauler provide citizens with a way to submit requests for any of the things that a citizen might need to submit a request for without any waiting, where the response is on the hauler. We voted on that, and I don't feel like this is specific enough to make that clear. It's not okay to have to wait for someone to come onto a chat or to answer a phone. Now, it does say that email can be used, and email inherently, doesn't require someone who submits an email to wait. But I recognize that so many companies claim that they're supporting email, but then put up like a web form that you have to click and then wait, or it says that, it's not available right now or whatever. But that's something that we did put a lot of effort into and voted on to make sure that a citizen is not required to wait. They can get a response back within the day, and it's on the hauler to initiate that response.
That is lower down under response period number 6.
What did you just say?
So that is lower down under response.
Oh, it's lowered down.
It could be combined though into.
I just want to make sure that it's covered, that everything that a citizen might need to contact a hauler for is included in that email capability, where anything you need, you can submit without having to wait for someone to answer a phone or respond to a chat. Is that we put effort into that and voted on that. Did you have something else, Member Brinker?
Yeah, just a couple of wording things in this section. Under response period, Oh yeah, you got it. Emails and web-based forms. Yep, okay, thank you. And then above that too, about 2 lines above that, emails, down 1 line, down 1 line. Yes, there. Emails, online chat. Yep.
Thank you, Member Brinker. Did you have something, Member Hubka? Oh, you weren't done? Sorry.
I was done. Thanks.
Oh, okay.
Lowered my hand. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Did you have something, Member Hubka?
No, I think 1 day is fine, you know.
Yeah, we already voted on that. That's part of what we went through.
Right.
Oh, I thought that it should be important to specify that city has access to all of this customer service content, emails, chat, everything. Any, you know, city should, at least upon request, be able to, within a short amount of time, get all of it if we're not going to make it where they have to submit it to the city every month. Member Brinker?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I add the next thing, unless there's discussion on that. The next thing is the 3rd line under number 8. The contractor will disseminate public education materials on at least a quarterly basis. Now down, yeah.
At least?
Yep.
Yep, that's good.
And as far as customer related issues and documentation, that could just be summaries and abstracts. I'm talking about the actual content. If a citizen, you know, that's what I don't like, is that citizen complaints and experiences are going to the hauler and the city does not, the city is just getting a report. I mean, we know that Waste Management told us that they, you know, never have a response take more than like 50 seconds or whatever it was. And we know that's not true because our former member Fraser's wife spent hours without getting, you know, on hold and without getting a result. I don't want to have it be dependent on these haulers to give us a high level write-up on an issue or their documentation. I want the city to have access to the content of any message, form, recorded call, etc., if requested.
So let's see.
Because you know they're recording the calls, you know they're keeping the chats, you know they're keeping the emails. So they should be required to keep all that and make it available to the city.
Something like that.
Sure.
Okay. So
yeah.
Maybe requests. Oh, well, I already said that. Be provided.
And if you think of, you know, an adjustment to that, just let us know the change, because someone else at the city may have a better way to structure that.
Yeah.
And I would think you'd also want to have a time period that they have to return it in.
Mm-hmm. I said timely, but.
$5 days or something, or even 1 business day, sure.
That shouldn't be hard to provide within 1 business day.
That way, if a citizen complains to the city can say, we want all communications.
Yep. And then can review it on our own to see what the issues are. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Sounds good.
Did anyone else have anything on this?
Okay. Oops. All right, so attachment G. This is the types of reports that they'd be required to provide us. So all of the following under item number 1 here is reported monthly by the 20th of each month. So basically, let's say it's May. So for the month of April, by May 20th, they would be required to provide all of this. So material reports, tags, if they let's say a customer puts garbage in their recycling containers, they would get this educational tag. So we want to know when they're doing that, and by address. Then they would need to provide us with that billing information, because again, that's going to go out on our bills, those costs.
I've got something on there. I remember Brinker,
Okay.
you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Go up a little bit to material reports. Okay, the third bullet down, I would suggest to revise that, turn it into 2 different bullets. And one would say tonnage of yard waste collected and delivered to an appropriate organics management facility if applicable. Sorry, let me do that slower. Collected and delivered to an appropriate organics management facility if applicable.
I'm sorry, handling facility? Management.
Organic, yeah.
You said break it into 2?
Yeah, I'm getting there in a second.
Okay.
And then the same thing for compost, tonnage of compost.
Oh, gotcha. Mm-hmm. Delivered as regular trash or something to a.
No, if it's regular trash, it's just weight and total tonnage of trash. And this is specifically if it's if they do bid for and receive the yard waste, special yard waste, or a special compost contract. Because otherwise they're not separating those out. It's just part of total tonnage of trash.
Yeah, good point.
So that's why I said if applicable.
Does that look right?
I would say tonnage of compost.
Oh, okay.
Collected and delivered to an appropriate organic management facility. If applicable.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Member Brinker.
I have a couple more in that section.
Oh, you do? Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. The bullet that starts with a detailed, it's 4th from the bottom, a detailed sheet of the weight. A detailed sheet of the weight and material collected by date and route number. There shall be separate sheets for garbage and recycling, comma, as well as yard waste and compost if applicable.
And she wanted to add compost too.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I love
garbage.
You're on the spot with your live edits.
Does that look right, Member Brinker?
Sure.
Okay.
Is that all you have?
The as applicable.
Oh, sorry.
Or if applicable, yeah.
Did you have more, Member Brinker?
One more. Total fuel usage, the one right below. Total fuel usage broken down by fuel type. Thanks.
And then I had a couple. I think we should specify, since we know it's been an issue, that they also have to report anytime a vehicle has contact with overhead cables, other vehicles, etc. I think it could be a bullet. Oh, I see. Not material reports. Yeah. Okay. And then I also was thinking maybe we should say that should any of these collisions happen, they need to report them to Inglewood PD.
Okay. Thought I had something up here. Here's a log of vehicle crashes. So maybe that one moves down.
That's what made me think of it, was I saw that listed there, and then I thought it should specifically cover contact with overhead cables as well, because that's not necessarily a crash, but that's a significant issue. And then I do think it's worth considering requiring that upon any of these instances, they be required to contact Inglewood PD. Or the appropriate city department. I mean, maybe, I'm not really sure what's appropriate there.
No, because I think the police department is correct, because basically it becomes, you know, a safety incident, and then they document it as such.
Okay.
What's it called? The police then will determine what the right forms are.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just had a question. Can you explain what the tagging reports is?
Yeah, so let's say again, somebody filled up their recycling bin with garbage and used it as a second garbage container, and the driver happened to catch that. So they would not necessarily empty that into the, you know, they don't want to contaminate the recycling load. So they would usually put a tag on there saying, this is why we're not taking your or emptying your recycling bin. And then they would note the address of that and where they left that tag. That's probably the most typical example.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything on this section?
I have something on the next page, I think.
Go ahead.
Keep going down. Under vehicle report, I would say type, age, make, model, and fuel.
Fuel usage, like?
No.
Or fuel type?
Yes.
Okay.
Remove and model.
Yep. There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else in this section, anyone? All right, I think you can move on to H.
Okay. All right, this is the payments and penalties. And we have spent a fair number of discussion on penalties. So again, that's laid out pretty extensively in the here in the sections down below. I did want to just touch on one thing here. So this yearly number 3 here is where we talk about, we've had a fair amount of discussion around the increase. So this is where we added or changed that language related to the Denver Aurora Lakewood Consumer Price Index, and then that the percentage increase would match the years of the contract. So again, not exceed 5% for 5 years, 7 for 7, and 10 for 10. So just wanted to point that out, that was changed in there.
All right, wait, on payment responsibilities, the contractor shall invoice customers. Is the customer the city?
No, so this would be, so outside of our large item pickup. So let's say you had a mattress to get rid of outside of that. So that's when we have those individual prices for the large item pickups that you would then contact the contractor, and then they would come out and do that. Let's say you've already used up your 2 vouchers for the year and you had another something to get rid of, then you would pay for that directly to them.
So to me, that sounds kind of crazy that the contractor can be potentially invoicing every citizen directly, as well as the city doing that. I mean, if the contractor is going to be capable of invoicing customers directly, then why don't we just have them do it all and not include city staff to do invoicing for this to citizens? You know, it seems like this is creating, it's more expensive if there's 2 entities doing billing to citizens. What's the benefit to citizens to spend money on employees for doing billing if the contractor is capable of billing the citizens and going to have a system in place to do so?
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess, you know, they're the ones taking that request. So they would, the idea would be is most likely that they'd take payment at the time that the pickup was scheduled. But we can certainly consider changing that. And then they would just have to provide with that monthly report of charges, that list of who we would invoice, you know, in addition to. So let's say in that situation, though this should be, well, I don't want to venture to say how often this might occur, but we would just have to get that information from the contractor by the 20th of each month to include in the utility bill.
Member Hubka?
Yeah, that will still cost us money. The cost of a paper invoice can range from $12 to $30 to process, where the average cost is like $15. Every time the phone company sends you a bill, it costs $15. When it's really complex, it can cost as much as $40. So in this case, the waste collector is going to absorb that cost, and we're going to have 2 administrators, 1.5, I should say, to make sure that they're keeping to the contract. And of course, to settle, help us with any disputes that they're not able to arise. I don't think we want to go into the business of hiring more staff to send out bills. And of course, there's the paper and the copier, and there's expense related to it.
I mean, I agree. And that's why I don't understand why the city's doing the billing of citizens in the first place if the contractor is maintaining a direct relationship to citizens and billing them directly anyway. Why not have them absorb the whole thing, and then we don't have to pay for these administrators or have less of it?
We need administrators, I think, regardless, don't we? I mean, that's not part of the billing. I don't know if we want to revisit how the city wants to handle this, because I think that was up to the city wants, council members want somebody over this to administer the contract.
Well, I think
but we don't necessarily need as many people. Go ahead, Director Andrea, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think the impetus was that we're already sending out the utility bill, so that this would be one more element of that on the bill. So there should be relatively low cost because we're already doing those mailing services. Yes, there is some administrative cost associated with adding those invoices or those costs into the system, but we don't have to basically recreate that process of creating the paper document, stuffing it, and mailing it, because we're already doing that. That was the idea.
Member Brinker, you had your hand up. Oh, now you did again.
Yeah, I like the idea of having it included on the water and sewer bill, just for convenience of me, just for household convenience.
Yeah, I seriously doubt that the person who picks up the stuff that's left out is going to be knocking on doors and getting payment at the time of service. I mean, it's going to be an invoice thing. And that's why it's so, to me, that just seemed like a glaring, point of ridiculousness that we're establishing 2 relationships with each citizen billing wise. the contractor directly and the city doing this. And, there's already concern about the cost of these city employees. I recognize there needs to be some administration, but potentially not as much as there is. I think that should be considered. Member Hubka?
So we're going to move to not have the trash company do any filling at all. And then the city will, if there's a billing dispute, the city will take it out on our behalf. Just all billing disputes.
I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. So I just want to make sure I understand this, because this is a change from the previous RFP. We're going to make all the city will send out a bill and do collection and do billing and handle the billing disputes for all of it, not just extra pieces, but the monthly bill, and then of course all the extras that we're adding on. Yes, that's what we're changing.
Well, currently the way outside of this, all payment was going to go through the city, right, Director DeAndrea? So the billing relationship between citizens and everything related to trash, except for this one sentence or two sentences, has been established that it's city to citizen on the water bill. And then this is thrown in there that the contractors now also have an invoice relationship with citizens, which to me, if they can handle that and do that, then why are we spending extra money having the city do it?
Oh, I get it. Yeah, it should be one or the other. It should be. Yeah, I thought we were getting a bill from the waste management company, but
no, it's on the water bill. That's what's so weird to me is this section is creating a double invoice relationship for a citizen. Now the citizen has a relationship with the city paying for their trash on the water bill, and also anything extra, then now they're having to pay the contractor directly. So to me, it's an argument against having the city do the billing, because if the contractor is able to maintain an invoice relationship with every citizen, then why don't they just do it all and reduce our cost on the administration? Member Brown?
I would agree with that. Sorry.
I would agree if they have the capability, which we know they do, to bill, why not just leave it in their hands, and then we wouldn't, right? We wouldn't need two full-time and one part-time person, which we know is over 200,000. Plus, we wouldn't have to charge an administrative fee, would we?
Yes, we still would. So
and why
by
would
having organized collection, you will have administrative costs no matter what.
And could I ask Director DeAndrea why, if we're not doing any of the administration?
Because there will be administrative costs. So we know that people will still call the city for their bills. We know that they'll still call and ask questions about missed pickups. They're still going to have somebody who has to manage the contract and deal with issues. So there will be some level of administration no matter what.
But do you think that we could consider just having the trash hauler bill us? Because to me, this is a lot of money we're spending on these new employees.
You can do anything you want. So, if you wanted to have two bills, then you'll continue to pay for your utility bill coming in the mail and being mailed out. And then you'll also pay the company some price for creating a bill and invoicing you on a monthly basis as well. So we can certainly set it up that way if the committee desires.
Well, I guess I would kind of like to know what the difference would be. I mean, I don't really see much of a difference unless they charge us more for sending us out invoices, which apparently they already do anyway, correct? Like any of these trash haulers, don't they send out invoices to their customers?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Vice Chair Borman.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I feel like by giving it to the city. So we have all these penalties that are assessed, right? We need to have a way for the city to be, you know, they get a report of all their incidences and all that sort of stuff. And if it's not resolved, right, within a timely time period, we get fines put on the haulers. And then that way we have the administration at the city, you know, giving us back our monthly cost and also putting it out towards helping low income people and things like that, which we already kind of talked about. And I think that's one of the biggest arguments for me in terms of our keeping the administration through the city, is that way we have the city watching over our bills and all these penalties and everything like that, so that the money that is assessed is spent in the way that we want it to be, in terms of subsidizing people who can't afford their trash or education or whatever else we had put in there.
I think that's a fair argument, and clearly the structure primarily favors it going through the city the way it's currently set up. I don't think it's overly, I mean, just being someone who's worked on systems like this all over the place, I see no reason that this portion can't also be included in what the city invoices for without increasing the administrative cost beyond what is already laid out, because this is something that should be built into the interface between the hauler and the city. And you know, I don't see why the hauler needs to be invoicing citizens directly when we have
I actually agree with that too. Sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to say that. I just meant for the whole thing.
Well, I was agreeing with you, as Chair Borman.
Sorry.
I was agreeing with you and saying that it shouldn't be a double billing situation. There shouldn't be any reason for the hauler to invoice the citizen directly unless they're going to do all the invoicing. I don't like this. It's inefficient and it's going to create other problems, and it doesn't make any sense to have the hauler invoicing citizens and the city invoicing citizens. If we've got 2.5 people full time, there's no reason that the automation for this can't be built in so that the city includes this portion in what the city is invoicing citizens for, and the hauler doesn't invoice the citizens directly at all.
Agreed.
I like that approach.
Without increasing the cost on administration, because it shouldn't. There'll be a bit of work up front to automate it, but once it's automated, there's really no reason that city administration should have to do anything other than deal with exceptions. And there should be plenty of time available for 2.5 people to handle that. Member Kawanabe?
Just a couple of things I'll call out. One, we're over time, but I did want to comment on this before we ended.
Thank you.
If we do have the billing go out through the city, the complaints will go back to the city, right? And so you're actually looking at doubling up the amount of service that's going to come to the city. Not saying neither here nor there, right? Just calling out the reality of people are going to say if they got an increase in their bill, they're going to contact the person that billed them, and they're not going to contact the hauler.
Excellent point. And that would be a good argument for putting the billing to the hauler entirely. But we are at time. I would suggest, Director DeAndrea, will you please fill this out and get us more info on what the city's position really is on having this separate invoicing relationship between the hauler and the citizen, as well as the city and the citizen, so that we can kind of come to a, if you have more information that justifies this double invoice relationship with citizens, I would like to hear it. Okay. And then we're pretty close. And so we'll have the details of the large item to go over next time. Thanks for pointing out the time, Member Kawanabe. I didn't even realize. We're going to finish for now on this. We'll schedule our next meeting. So our next meeting, normal time, would be on the 7th. Does anyone object to that?
Just a point of order, Chair Green, that is a council meeting that evening, because we've had 5 Mondays in May. Okay. So then that would put us back on a council meeting schedule.
Is there any reason we couldn't do it on the 8th? From your side, Director DeAndrea?
No, that'd be fine with me.
Does anyone on the committee is anyone not able to do the 8th instead of the 7th?
I don't know if I can, because the new a different committee starting up, and I think it's going to be every other Tuesday, but I'm not positive. I could let you know by tomorrow.
Okay, let's, does anyone else have an issue with the 8th?
I might not be able to attend on the 8th. I believe I have a previous appointment.
Okay, I hate to exclude anyone. I feel like we're all important. So I'd like to figure out a time that we can all meet. If we did it on the 7th at the same time as the city council, I know Member Brown, you participate in pretty much every city council. So that's a hardship for you. Is that a hardship for anyone else to do the 7th?
I can't make the 7th, out of town.
Let's try the 9th. Could everyone do the 9th, or can anyone not do the 9th? By no one speaking up, does that mean that you're not sure, or that the 9th works for everyone?
9th is good.
9th is fine.
All right, then let's schedule our next meeting for the 9th.
Sounds good.
Chairperson's choice. I don't have anything. Committee member's choice. Anybody? Okay. Do you have anything else for us, Director? Member Hubka?
Oh, I'm just going to mention that we're coming up to summer vacations. So we had a hard time scheduling last summer. We'll have a hard time scheduling, I think, going forward. I hope we can wrap this up in one more meeting. I really am sorry, but our time is valuable too, you know. That's all. Thank you.
Did you have anything else for us, Director DeAndrea?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, let's adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks all. Have a good night.
Have a good
You
night.
too.